Before we start today's episode, I would like to quickly read you our podcast disclaimer. The content in this podcast is for general reference and educational purposes only. It is not meant to be complete or exhaustive or to be applicable to any specific individual's medical condition. No information provided in this podcast constitutes medical advice and is not an attempt to practice medicine or to provide specific medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. This podcast does not create a physician-patient relationship and is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please do not rely on this podcast for emergency medical treatment. Remember that everyone is different, so make sure you consult your own healthcare professional before seeking any new treatment and before you alter, suspend, or initiate a new change in your routine. Welcome to The Starting Gate. We're your hosts, Dr. Kitty Dotson
and Dr. Sarah Sheets,
two internal medicine doctors who spent years practicing traditional primary care. Over time, we realized something was missing from modern healthcare. A real understanding of how everyday lifestyle choices impact overall health.
We'll help you cut through the noise of the countless health influencers and their conflicting opinions, because no matter who you follow, the basics of lifestyle medicine are at the heart of it all.
Welcome to The Starting Gate. We're your hosts, Dr. Kitty Dotson
and Dr. Sarah Sheets.
We hope that this first week of the new year is off to a good start for you and you're feeling that new year, new me energy, or maybe you have not had time to even think about it yet. But either way, we are here to help you get started strong. So we wanted to talk about kind of turning those really lofty and maybe unrealistic resolutions into something real that can actually stick and be lifelong.
So this month, we're going to be diving into the essentials of nutrition, exercise, talking about mood, and maybe even a little bit about sleep. We can't forget about that pillar of lifestyle medicine, because these are some of the best areas to start making lasting changes. And today, we're kicking things off by, guess what? Talking about nutrition.
Nutrition. So we are thrilled to welcome today's guest, Beth Kronenberg. And Beth brings a wealth of expertise in nutrition. She is the founder of Kitchen Shift in Lexington, where she works as a health coach and has the best smoothies ever.
They're delicious.
Sarah and I experienced recently. And her passion really lies in helping people shift their mindset around food and empowering them to make sustainable long-term changes, which is, of course, what we love too. So we're excited to hear what kind of knowledge Beth can impart on us today. So Beth, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am the owner of Kitchen Shift. As you mentioned, I'm also a health coach. My degree is sort of unique as it's in psychology and neuroscience. So I'm not a registered dietitian by trade, and that was actually a very conscious decision I made.
Yeah.
So started my work career working in pharmaceutical and medical sales, which you would imagine has nothing to do with this, but it actually gave me a really good peek into the habits of people and their defaults. I worked in that industry. It honestly paid the bills while my husband was in medical school. And I'm very grateful for that experience because it really opened my eyes to what we really need to do from a preventative medicine standpoint. So I then made the very conscious decision to get my education in nutrition with the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, which is based out of New York City. It's a 2-year program. I did it virtually. I had 2 very young children at the time. But at that same time I was enrolled, my husband was diagnosed with celiac. And that was a very pivotal point in not only my personal journey with nutrition and my family's journey, but also just really opened my eyes to what I wanted to do to help the world, honestly, when it comes to how they eat. So we started to really read labels. It wasn't just looking for gluten. I started to read ingredient lists, and I was honestly horrified with what I had not only been feeding myself, but also feeding my 2 small children. So at that point, I started to really dive into, how I wanted to help people. I finished my training with the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and right out of the gate, I started with Kimmy Bohannon at the Weekly Juicery and would have a lot of conversations with individuals. And then at that point, started taking on clients and was doing this from coffee shops, virtual, and then finally got to a point where I felt like I really needed to have a space to meet with people. And then in 2020, I took the dive to sign a lease and build a kitchen out and launched Kitchen Shift at that point. The pandemic hit, and so of course that changed everything.
Yes. Absolutely.
So I took my business virtual again, but behind the scenes I was doing things at my kitchen over on Clay's Mill. So you can see I've kind of dabbled in a lot of different things, but I have some clarity now
Yeah.
with what I'm doing at Kitchen Shift. And really, it's sort of two businesses. So I have the storefront where we provide healthy nutrition on the go. We have healthy smoothies, and then we also prepare healthy prepared foods. I don't use any seed oils. Everything is gluten-free. I really believe in the quality of the food that we eat. I'm really trying to educate the community to get away from ultra-processed foods because I think it is impossible to manage those calories. And you can track as much as you want, but if you're eating an ultra-processed diet, you're going to eventually fail. I just believe that at my core. So trying to introduce people to what whole food nutrition tastes like and that it can taste good.
Yes.
I think that's a big misnomer. Healthy can taste really delicious. And then on the other side of the coin, I still offer health coaching. So I do that in person, but I also do that virtually. I work with individuals, I work in small groups, and then I also have a monthly group that I work with. I have a 10-day program, and a lot of times when people finish that 10-day program, they're like, okay, I just kind of need this every day of my life. And so we have sort of a maintenance program, if you will, called the Member Shift.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So that was a big dump of information on everything I do. But
you hear Sarah and I talk a lot about processed foods too and how to minimize that. So we're looking forward to getting some tips from Beth about how to do that without feeling totally overwhelmed.
Yes.
And I know you might get sick of us talking about nutrition, but we just want to bring up the fact that nutrition is our foundation. If we don't focus on that from the beginning, it's going to be shaky, it's going to be rocky, and you're really going to struggle meeting those health goals in general. So that's why we constantly are talking about it, because we know reaching some of our other health goals are going to be possible if we get this one correct.
Absolutely.
And what we eat is going to give us that energy. When it comes to talking about nutrition, because you can get overwhelmed, we get overwhelmed when we talk about it, what are some of those things that you like to just focus on from the beginning?
So I often start small and we evaluate your morning routine. What are you doing right when you get out of bed? And some of this is actually not even related to food, but plays into your decision around the first foods you put into your mouth. Are you getting on your phone the second you step out of bed, or are you even picking up your phone while your feet are still toasty under your covers? Or do you get out of your bed and you stretch, maybe you meditate, maybe you do a little gratitude, completely different vibe that occurs at that point. You're now kind of shifting into a whole new mindset, if you will, if you're starting on that note rather than scrolling on your phone. From there, I encourage my clients to start with some type of morning elixir. And that's honestly just a fancy way of saying, don't drink coffee on an empty stomach. So can you start with a little warm lemon water or a green, maybe something with a green powder or a green juice, just something that kind of wakes up your gut, can help you produce a little bile acid. Oftentimes people can go to the bathroom after this. A lot of us rely on coffee to be able to move our bowels and get things going, but it's amazing how just a little warm lemon water can do that. From there, again, I coach clients individually on this, but sometimes I recommend a little protein on your stomach before jumping into some coffee. I know some people really prefer to work out fasted, so in your coffee, I may recommend doing something like a collagen powder so that you're not just doing straight caffeine. Or maybe you could do some type of egg bite or, a little piece of chicken sausage, something like that. I call it the petit déjeuner, which is the French way of like a small breakfast, but I think just having a little something on your stomach is a really good idea for hormones and that sort of cortisol rush that we get in the morning too.
I'm going to have you pause there for a moment because I will say this coffee trick was life-changing for me.
Awesome.
Because I was one that for many years, the first thing I did was wake up in the morning, all I could think about was my coffee. It's like, I need my coffee, day can't start, just coffee. And I've slowly, and habits are hard to break. So what I have done is I will make the coffee and just set it aside. Mm-hmm. But I still have it. It's like it's there. But I wait and delay and do these exact things that you're talking about. And not only does it make my stomach feel better, I'm less jittery. If you're someone that has a more, anxious type personality or whatnot, having coffee on that empty stomach first thing in the morning is almost setting you up for a day of just feeling that way.
Yes.
And overall, you're using your own hormones of cortisol to wake up instead of relying on caffeine. And then when you do have your caffeine later, it works better. And
Yes.
it's fascinating. Like, literally, this is one of those life hacks that I wish I could get everyone to do.
I know, and it is really hard because caffeine gives us that. I mean, it feels good.
It
you know,
does.
it wakes
It
you
does.
up. It helps move your bowels. Like it works for a lot of people. And I think you're exactly right. What I want to convey is it's not that you can't have it. Just delay it.
Yes.
Just get a few things done before that, and it'll work to your advantage.
Okay, I'll try it.
You gotta do it, Kitty. I want you to do it, and I want you to come on the show and be
We
like,
convinced you. I love it.
it
I
does
will
work,
try
Sarah.
it. I will try it. I am totally a coffee first thing in the morning. I have my water too, but
I've never known a physician to not love coffee. I'm just going to be very honest.
It's my favorite thing.
I was not a coffee person until med school.
Of course.
I feel like it just is, I don't know.
Just have you ever known a peer physician that doesn't drink coffee? There can't be many.
There's not many. But I have like a Yeti cup, so it keeps it warm, and I pour it. I'm like, it's ready, but you have to wait, and it's great. So, Kitty, you're going to do it.
Okay, I will try it. I promise.
I love it.
I'm with you. Everyone else out there that is like wanting your coffee first thing, to try that is one of my goals for resolutions for trying this month.
So I do try to start. I do this with every single client I've ever worked with. I start in the morning. I do. I don't want to overwhelm. I think it can be really overwhelming if I say, all right, this is the diet you're doing, and we're changing all 3 meals, no snacks. I think it's a recipe for failure. So many times I'm like, we're going to just groove this habit in the morning, and I want you to get the first food, because some people don't want to eat till 10 o'clock. But I'm like, whatever the first foods that you put in that first meal, we're going to get that down. And I want you to connect how good that makes you feel. So from there, I'm like, okay, now let's look at lunch. What are some of the lunch options? How can we groove some really good habits around that lunch habit? Okay, now we're going to get to dinner. Now we're going to evaluate. So you can see we kind of go sequentially there. I do that too because I want them to see how decisions can have a domino effect too. You know, when you start out of the gate, start out of the gate really strong, it builds incredible momentum for the next decision. There's also just some pride. You know, when you do something really well for yourself, we feel really good, and then we want to keep going. It's hard to sabotage when you're really like starting on a really good note. And with that said too, I try to help clients, if things unravel at the end of the day, I'm like, close that day down. Like, put a bookend on it. I'm really big on like morning and evening routines. Your evening routine should be the bookend. It's okay if things didn't go perfectly. They never do. But I want you to really kind of put a bookend in it so that you can wake up the next morning and you know exactly what you're supposed to start with again.
Sarah loves the wind down routine.
That changed my life in the fact that I was one that would work up until bedtime, you know, just trying to get everything done because I love checking off my list to make sure it was complete. And I had this concept that would give me closure on the day. And all it did was just keep me amped up, and I never did anything to wind down, relax, or let my brain even rest that day. And making sure that I do that has helped my sleep tremendously. It's not only like finishing my day, but now I can sleep because I've actually allowed myself rest.
Some space.
Space to go to bed. So for those of you who are listening, maybe struggling with sleep, actually working on your evening routine is a great way to start to improve that.
Yeah.
I will never forget, I was working with a client during the pandemic, and we met, and she was just an absolute, honestly, workaholic. She would have her laptop in bed 11:30, sometimes till 1 a.m. And I just asked her, I said, what if you put the laptop away at 9? What would happen? And she's like, well, I would have some work left unfinished. And I said, who would notice other than you? And it was a really like profound moment. She's like, I think I've set the bar high for myself, not necessarily my employer. So with a few other changes, we really did honestly focus mostly on sleep, which was really interesting. But then that started to bleed into food choices. She lost 20 pounds in the matter of like, I think it was like 3 or 4 months, just from putting the laptop away at night.
It's the chronic stress, the poor sleep. If you're working on weight loss goals, these are some of those missing pieces that sometimes people are ignoring.
Yes.
You know, they're like, oh, I've got the nutrition down, but still things aren't happening. It's some of these things that they're missing in their routine that have a big impact. I would love for you to talk about what are some of your favorite things to talk about in an evening routine, specifically when it comes to eating and drinking fluids, etc. What is some of that advice that you're giving related to that?
Absolutely. Well, I can speak from personal experience. I grew up in a household where we were big nighttime snackers. And for some reason, cereal was the go-to. All through high school, I was dealing with debilitating reflux. And I was not overweight then. I'm not overweight now. And that's often associated with someone that is, GERD is associated with someone that's overweight. But that was not the case. It was more that I had so much liquid and volume and probably have a weaker, esophageal sphincter, but I would lay down and it would burn all night. So as I got into this coaching business, I started to identify I had eliminated that. I was no longer eating after dinner, and I noticed my reflux really went away. So encouraging clients to not eat after dinner. The nighttime snacking can really affect your quality of sleep, but just simply saying you can't eat can be hard. So what I have found for me is sipping herbal tea, getting really into, honestly, all the different flavors that are available. There are so many non-caffeinated, good herbal tea options that honestly taste really good. I even do combinations. So I'll take a chamomile tea bag and a peppermint tea bag, and the peppermint kind of tastes sweet. So it's serves like a dessert a little bit, but the chamomile is very calming. So I'm really big on having something like that beverage that sort of caps off your night. So it's a nightcap, but not the one that we've heard about for decades, and not the bourbon.
And I have to say, I love this in the wintertime because I use those in the winter because you want to be all cozy and warm. And if this isn't a habit you already have, this is the best time of year to start it because it seems so enjoyable to have a warm drink at night.
It's like a warm hug. And I think that's that ritual has now sort of become a psychological thing for me. My brain now knows that it's time to power down. It associates warm herbal tea with bedtime. And so I then have a supplement routine because I really do think supplementation can really help with sleep. I take a magnesium at night. It's also when I do my vitamin D and K, since you want to take those together. So I have a little bit of a ritual with my supplementation too that I have noticed helps my sleep. And then I work very hard. I actually work very hard, and I'm not perfect with getting off my phone.
I struggle with that still.
It's really hard, especially having my daughter left for college this year and, wanting to check in with her. She's also on a much different schedule. She stays up much later. Mm-hmm. And so having to really let go of that has been a challenge, but I continue to work at it. And again, this is something I'm very transparent with my clients. I'm just because we're not good at it doesn't mean we don't continue to work at it.
Right.
So I continue to work at that. And then the other thing that I noticed, this is a really funny little detail. This may be different for other people, but if I take a hot bath, it's actually very stimulating for me. So I have found I really do better if I take a shower at night. But that shower end caps the night for me, slip into my PJs and my robe, get my tea, do my supplements, and then it's bedtime.
Yeah, your nighttime routine can be very unique from each other, and I feel like sometimes exploring with different options to figure out what works for you. Because some people are like, if I read, I instantly can just relax and fall asleep. And then some people really get into their books.
Yes.
And then they end up staying an hour later, and it's like, well, that didn't work.
That backfired, right?
That backfired. So
I am not that person. If I am reading, I am out within the first paragraph.
Me too. I was like, oh, nope, that would work. Or listen to a adult bedtime story. I'm also, when I was struggling with sleep a lot, I used the Calm app and then would listen to those sleepy time stories just like they have for kids. They have them for adults of note.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
And that's on the Calm app? Because I have the Calm app.
And they
have these probably beautiful soothing voices.
Oh, their voices, it's magnificent. So if you're really having trouble having your mind calm down or whatnot and you need something to focus on, it's putting on one of those bedtime stories and they will read to you and they can help you go to sleep. So there's lots of different things. So if this is something that's new to you, just consider some of these ideas because there's lots of options to help you wind down.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And one poor night of sleep, the next day your ghrelin is up and that's your hormone that's stimulating appetite. Your leptin is down and that's your hormone that's bringing down appetite and helping keep you full. So just even one night of bad sleep, you're going to have a change in those hormones. So really making sure you get that nighttime routine down and like Sarah said, experiment with lots of different things, because it sounds like all three of us have different ways of getting to sleep at night. But you've heard me say, and Beth just said, not eating at night really transformed my sleep.
Yes.
And so if you are eating at night, just try paying attention and watch yourself do better with your sleep, and then you'll be encouraged to keep that habit up.
Do either of you wear an Oura ring?
I do not.
Okay.
Just
while we're on the subject.
Yes, it's not. It's. I want to, but I have not gone into it because I geek out when I get technology, and I know that I will become slightly obsessive with it. So I've paused. At some point, I'm going to actually purchase one and do it, but I have to know that it's the right time for me to totally geek out about it.
I've had mine for 7 years, and I'm not a tracker. I'm not big on tracking macros, calories, steps, but I have really tapped into some cool things using that ring. Not that I want to make this a commercial for it, but the Oura Ring really has been transformative for sleep. It really does give you feedback. And like to your point about eating late at night, it's wild to see what happens to my sleep score and my HRV when I'm eating right before bed. Like it's very noticeable. So.
I have many patients that wear one, and just between what they eat, also alcohol and the changes that makes in your sleep, actually having data to show the changes that are different when you drink right before bed and have an alcoholic nightcap and seeing what that does to your sleep. It's really great to have that feedback to understand what's going on and actually have an answer for how you feel.
Exactly.
So when you're thinking about setting up your New Year's resolutions and your nutrition goals, we're just reminding you that nutrition isn't just about what goes in your mouth, but it's, the whole thing. So Beth, do you have any other good tips for people when they're setting those New Year's resolutions of how to really be realistic?
Absolutely. I call some of these habits the low-hanging fruit that tend to be the thing that you are avoiding, but it's like the one thing that's always holding you back. So I know we mentioned alcohol, and it's January. I'm a big proponent of a dry January, and there's incredible research that shows if we take a 1-month break from drinking, that it benefits us the rest of the year. So in terms of New Year's resolutions, rather than an overarching, I'm going to eat clean and exercise every day, I encourage my clients to get a little more specific and toggle into the thing that they feel might be holding them back that they're doing most frequently. So the two things that I see are honestly drinking calories. I see a lot of soda drinking, and it's like, if you just eliminate that one thing, you will be amazed at how your sugar cravings go down for other processed carbohydrates. Sometimes I'm not necessarily recommending you change all your meals, but what are you drinking? Liquid calories by way of soda, and then also alcohol. I have seen tremendous change occur where you don't even change a morsel of food, but you just stop drinking alcohol. Especially women. I work with a lot of women that are perimenopause and menopause, and there is something that alcohol does to that population of women, and it doesn't need to be a bottle of wine. I'm talking glass and a half, 2 glasses, and again, the way that people pour, I think it's probably more like 2 to 3 glasses. But if you eliminate that, it can really, really change the way you look and feel.
Absolutely. And I know one thing that is big is just the change in hot flashes. Alcohol, definitely having any or too much, either or, they're all both ways is going to impact that. So many menopausal women before never felt like they had significant symptoms from any alcohol that they drank, and suddenly they're trying to piece together what is going on. And that is one low-hanging fruit that can make a big difference and help them sleep better, as well as control their hot flashes a little bit better as well.
Absolutely. And also even on the exercise piece, and this isn't nutrition related, but rather than saying I'm going to exercise every day, I'm doing this character mile challenge right now in the month of December, and I typically carry it into the new year, but committing to walking outside just 1 mile, 1 mile every day. And if you feel inspired and want to do more than that, fabulous. But if you can set a goal like that it's doable. I tell clients this all the time. If you cannot find 20 to 25 minutes out of your day to walk, you're mismanaging your time. We have to be able to find 20 to 25 minutes for us to get into fresh air and to walk. And so when you really commit to something like that, you also start to recognize how many times you would have said no. Like I'm noticing it this month, and I've walked every day this month. And if I hadn't told myself I'm walking every single day, I don't know that I would have been outside when it was really cold out. Not once. And I think about, okay, what are the benefits that I've gained from that? I think my stress was a little better. I probably slept a little better. I probably hit my step mark. I probably hit about 10,000 steps with that extra walk in there. So just simply making that one measurable commitment that's so doable can really pay in spades when you repeat it.
That is something that I know we always are trying to help people see is the impact of those small changes instead of thinking you have to go for something big. Like all of a sudden I'm going to train for a half marathon. No.
Exactly.
That's not what's needed to live a healthy life. You don't have to go big in order to see results. Instead, like, let's do something we can actually accomplish regularly and start there. And then once it becomes part of a habit, then it's so much easier to grow from there instead of going big at first.
Absolutely.
And I know Sarah and I, we're talking about SMART goals with you last week, and that's a perfect example of one because it's a specific goal, 1 mile every day for 1 month outside. And that's a great example of one of those SMART goals we were talking to you about last time.
Now, when you're working with someone, how do you help? Because I know so many people, just from trying many different things when it comes to nutrition, starts having such a negative mindset when they're thinking about improving their health through nutrition. It feels very much like, well, I can't do this, I can't do that. There's lots of can'ts.
Yes.
How do you help people switch to that more positive mindset when they're thinking about food?
So glad we're talking about this because I'll put it this way. I overheard a person that has lost a lot of weight, this is a family member, mention that they've not been having any fun. So over the holidays, they said, yes, I've lost a lot of weight, but I haven't been having any fun. And it really, I had to take pause with that because I'm like, you look incredible and you feel good. So why would you think that the other side is fun? So the point being, we have romanticized really bad food. And I'm not sure who has done this, but the fact that eating poorly and drinking is seen as fun is wild to me. So one of the things that I try to shift for my clients is think about all the loving things that you're doing for your body when you're feeding it well, sleeping well, moving your body. Like that is probably the greatest expression of self-respect and love that you can really show. So it's not that you're depriving yourself, you're loving on yourself. It's very cliche, but you cannot provide for anyone in your family, people at work, if you're not starting with yourself. You've got to put that oxygen mask on first before you start saving other people. So starting with yourself, loving yourself, caring, understanding what that really means is something that I work with a lot of clients on. The other thing that I'm really realistic about is, in a sense, choosing your hard. I think it is hard to get outside and walk every day, especially in the winter months. It's really cold. It's really uncomfortable. But it's also hard to get to a point where you're so overweight that you can't walk. They're both pretty hard. But I would much rather choose the hard of having the ability to walk so that I have a life where I can stay mobile and be active with my children and someday grandchildren. So this concept that it's never supposed to be easy is one that I really drive home. It's actually quite a bit of work, but it's going to be hard either way.
And really just embracing the fact that I can do something hard and have this amazing result and love the progress that occurs through that is something that we're missing. And we have totally tried to avoid anything that has hard work in it at times.
Absolutely. And we become having goals are obviously really important in goal setting. But to your point, if you can love the process, that is what will change your life. If you can fall in love with the process and almost becoming this investigator, like I want to investigate what works best for me. And it's like your own science experiment. Maybe it's the science like lover in me that really gets me going. But it's like a self-improvement thing that I love to play around and figure out what's working and what feels good and then putting that on repeat.
Yeah, and I think you have to be actually mindful of taking the time to do that because we can get just so wrapped up in staying busy. And when we do have 2 seconds, we're looking at our phone or looking at our calendar to see what's coming up next. And so, if you can really take the time to be that investigator and say, oh yeah, that one really did make me feel better, that hard is worth it. And then you may have other times where you put a lot of energy into another habit and that didn't make a big difference, and maybe that hard's not as worth it. And so really taking the time to look at yourself and see how you're feeling and then prioritize those goals is important.
I think journaling can be really powerful too. Throughout this process, I've encouraged several of my clients to journal through their journey because it's really great when you're having moments where you feel like things are falling apart. You can reflect back on previous entries and you can see sort of patterns. I think that is really powerful and can help people kind of ride the wave, if you will, and get back into alignment with what they know works for them.
It's really helpful knowing, say you have a bad week and things kind of went off the rails, and then you have figured out the things that'll work. That way you know instantly what you need to go back and focus time and energy on and help with that. I think some of this that we're trying to also tap into is the idea of intrinsic motivation. Can you reflect on how you use that for helping people with change in their nutrition?
So it's challenging because, our motivation will wax and wane. And so I really try to drive simple habits. Sometimes we almost have to turn our brain off. Like, we know this works. And so I need to trust the process and just keep repeating it. I actually just pulled up a quote because I saw this the other day, and something that I really work with my clients on is trusting the process. And so I'll read this. It takes 3 weeks to start a habit, 66 days to find a groove, 6 months to lock it down, 1 year to make it automatic, and 2 years to make it part of your identity. And I think that when you identify as someone who takes care of themselves is when you've sort of reached the point where you're now finding health fun. It's part of who you are. So anyone that's listening, trust the process and just stay in it. I think it's really important that you set a long-term goal. Don't do this for just the month. Don't do it for just the first quarter of the year. Maybe don't even consider doing this for just 2025. Could you look at this habit that you want to form for the next 2 years? And could that become part of your identity? Could you be the person that is known as the walker in your neighborhood?
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I think that one thing that a lot of people still know, no matter if their motivation is in the right place and they have this great mindset, they still struggle with time constraints.
Yes.
And so we get that, Kenny and I both have kids. I know you have kids, and those crazy schedules, if you don't already have things built in as habits, it feels very challenging to start something new in that time of your life. So how do you advise people who have, these crazy schedules, also are thinking about their children when they're trying to adopt new cooking strategies, etc.?
I'll start very high level with overarching meal planning. If you look at the number of decisions you have to make around a meal, most of us are making about 3 decisions a day. I mean, we're making many micro decisions, but you're probably eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or maybe you don't eat breakfast, you do lunch, dinner, and some sort of snack. So you extrapolate that over the week, so that's about 21 decisions. Something that I really push my clients to evaluate is how can I hit 80% of that? So being really okay with having some flexibility. So can I look at my calendar? I actually have even like a little meal planning sheet where we do this, and you write in where you will be eating out, because it's okay to have a meal out. I don't expect my clients to make 100% of their meals. That is not realistic. But if you have that already sort of in your agenda and planned, you can then map around that. So, okay, I know that I'm going to be eating out 3 meals this week. Maybe it's 2 lunches plus a dinner. Now I'm going to fill in what I'm eating for the rest of those meals. I'm going to repeat a couple breakfast, repeat a couple lunch. I want some variety for dinner. Now I can make my grocery list. And so I end up going to the grocery store with a much more firm plan than just walking in saying, I'm going to be healthy this week, because that can be really wasteful. When you walk in on a Sunday, the produce section is just busting out of the seams with beautiful produce. You pile it into your cart with no plan, and half of it ends up spoiling in your refrigerator. So having a realistic plan like that, where you know the number of meals that you're actually capable of fixing for yourself, and then having the recipe to accompany that. Now, if you're cooking for just 1 or 2 people, that can be a little more challenging. And this is where I really like to do soups and smoothies. I encourage my clients to make a big batch of soup on Sunday, Soup is so great because you can divide it up and freeze it. And I can't tell you how many nights I have come home late from a basketball game or a volleyball match. It's like 8:30, 9 o'clock. I don't want something heavy on my stomach. I don't want to eat a cheeseburger, but I need something. And I'll defrost some of the soup. I have this favorite vegetable soup that I actually sell at the shop called Detox Soup. The name is a little bit of a misnomer because it's not like going to make you go to the bathroom or anything. It's just, when I say detox, it's going to show your body exactly how to do what it needs to do by way of just having lots of fiber and good vegetables and some organic chicken bone broth. But that is my go-to late at night. Sometimes I'll do that and like half of a peanut butter sandwich. And it's perfect. It's not too much, and it's really easy to defrost and takes minutes to heat up. Smoothie kits are the same deal for people that are really busy in the morning. You can take some type of glass container, even a Ziploc baggie. You can put a scoop of protein in there. I'll share the recipe for my Muscle Magic, which is a really popular shake.
That's the one that I like.
So this is what you do. You take a scoop of the Thorne chocolate whey, put a banana in there, organic peanut butter, and honestly, you'll just dump that in a blender in the morning with some ice and some almond milk, and you blend that up. It takes minutes. And what I try to remind people of is in the minute that it takes you to blend that and then rinse out the blender is probably a fraction of the time for you to be in the Chick-fil-A drive-thru.
True.
You know, we really have to think about the time involved. We can really trick ourselves into thinking that some of this food prep is so much more when it's less than what we would be spending waiting for DoorDash.
I have done little experiment projects with that. Just curious, right? You sit in a drive-thru line and just start a timer.
Yeah.
And then compare that to one of your quickest meals that you can make at home and actually do that side-by-side comparison. It is a great reflection for yourself and needed to understand and tell your mind that it doesn't take as long as you think it does.
Absolutely.
And the cost there, too.
And the cost.
The cost is crazy. I can't get over with inflation how expensive fast food has become. And listen, the grocery store is too. I mean, we're feeling it all across. But the quality of what you get at home versus what you're getting in a drive-thru, I can tell you because I'm working on the food service side of things, and it is really expensive for me to make the food that I do at Kitchen Shift. It really is. I see how many businesses or restaurants, fast casual, fast food, they cut corners because they have to. They are in business for margins, not necessarily to nourish, the public. So yeah, there's a savings there. Obviously, the quality is so much better. One other tip I do want to share is to prep your protein ahead of time. And it's okay if you want to use shortcuts like buying a rotisserie chicken. Buy that rotisserie chicken, some of the canned fish, and honestly, some canned chicken. That's okay. We have this mentality that we have to do it so perfectly. We don't. Wild Planet is a brand that makes canned chicken. Is it as good as chicken breast that I would roast at home? No, but it still tastes pretty darn good. And it's a great protein that I can put on top of a salad or make a quick chicken salad myself. Canned fish, like a tuna or salmon, and then a rotisserie chicken from the grocery store. That can serve for several meals.
That's one thing that we both like to let people know is sometimes we think if we can't make that A-plus meal, we've talked about this on previous shows, that instead of, since I can't make an A-plus meal, I end up in a drive-thru when I actually had options at home that I could have made what we call like a B-plus meal. That is going to serve you better than sitting through that drive-thru.
Absolutely.
So learn to be okay with that and have those options and lean into some of those canned and frozen food options that you can have at home that maybe if you didn't plan as well at the beginning of the week that you can lean into to do something quick, and it's going to cost less and be the same amount of time.
I threw some chicken breast in the crock pot before I came here, and that took me 3 minutes.
Yep.
And I didn't have time we had a busy weekend, so I didn't have time to meal plan for the week. But I know I have frozen vegetables. I've thrown some chicken in there. So dinner's
perfect.
Okay. And that took me 3 minutes because my other option would be on the way home from our activities tonight. We stop somewhere, and this is going to be faster and cheaper in the end. So
Absolutely.
And better for us.
I've even done so in fashion, they call this high-low, where you wear something like kind of expensive and then like a Walmart t-shirt. But I see nutrition kind of be high-low. So I've had some situations where I come home really late and I pull out a gluten-free pizza from the freezer. And then I also roast almost like a head of broccoli with it. And so I eat broccoli and I also have a small gluten-free pizza. And I don't feel bad about this. I'm like, it was convenient. I got my greens in, I got some fiber in, and it was good enough. It's like that was probably maybe a B minus.
Yeah.
But the alternative would be probably a D minus if I
Right.
was going through the drive-through at that hour.
And that's when it comes to nutrition and what your body needs, the overall average is what we're looking for.
Absolutely.
So we need to stop having this pressure on ourselves to live these perfect A+ lives. I really think a lot of this comes from social media, because we'll see these accounts and think that people are able to accomplish some of these meals on a daily basis, and that's not real life.
It's not. And I'm here to remind this audience that so much of what you see on social media is an ad. This is not how people are actually living. That influencer is trying to sell you on a concept or a product. They have been asked to position themselves in that way, and it is not a reality.
That's a good reminder.
Yeah.
And you mentioned soup, which I think is a great thing to freeze, because when we were thinking a minute ago about if you're cooking for 1 or 2 people and not wanting to put all that time into the kitchen. So if you put the effort into that pot of soup, then you've got a few more meals that will come
Very
in the
easily.
next few months. Is there anything else that you can think of that's easy to freeze the leftovers or?
So I like one pot dishes. So I do a lot of sort of one pot or healthy, what I call casserole dishes. So I'll give you an example. We really like enchiladas in our house, and we'll use the siete wraps, which are grain-free.
Delicious.
And I don't even roll them, but I lay them flat. So imagine like you're laying lasagna noodles, but you're laying these tortillas down. And then sometimes if I'm looking for a shortcut, I'll take the chicken, the rotisserie chicken, and I'll mix that with either a green or a red sauce, sometimes even saute a vegetable into that, and I layer it. So I do a couple layers, add a little shredded cheese, I bake that. I usually have leftovers. You can very easily take that portion, freeze it, and it'll be good for a couple months. Pop that back out, microwave it, heat it up in your oven. So I think some of these more like casserole concepts that you can healthify, if you will.
Yeah.
And I help clients with this a lot of times. They'll bring a family recipe and I'm like, okay, let's swap out this ingredient. Let's swap out this. It's still going to taste good. We're going to make sure it's seasoned well, but we can upgrade some of those ingredients. And then if you make those, you'll have leftovers and you can freeze them. And you can do that honestly with a lot of meats as well. I have a client that does a lot of ground turkey, and so she'll batch all of that. She'll cook a large batch of that on Sunday, and then she portions it into the freezer so that when she needs a meat really quickly, some people just don't want to deal with raw meat, and it's hard because it's such a big portion too. But if you're cooking for just yourself, you can take out however many ounces you need, mix that in maybe with a seasoning or a vegetable, and you have a quick taco or a rice bowl, something like that you can make on the fly.
Logistically, so if you cooked that turkey, would you put it in bags or what would you freeze that in?
So I'm a member of Costco, and I have these glass containers that are great, and they work really well in the freezer. So I would put it in just a glass container, put the plastic top on it, and stick it in the freezer.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it keeps pretty well.
I like that because it's really easy to, if you have smaller ones and it's already ready to warm up because of the container that you have it in.
The other thing that I'll do too, like even with the soup, I just run it under hot water to kind of pop it out when it's been frozen too. You kind of do that with any of your frozen stuff. Just like run it under hot water a little bit, pop it out, and then you can put it on a plate that's safe for microwaving, or put it in something that's safe to bake in too, to reheat it.
I'm going to have to steal this soup idea. I've not done frozen soup, so I really like that.
Yeah, I do it.
So convenient.
Because my family doesn't love leftovers. Like, if I make a big pot of soup, I'm happy to eat it 5 nights in a row. But they, like, one night and they're done. So
it's a great way to spread
I just
it out.
freeze the rest.
You
then
can freeze chili. I mean, think about some of the other applications for this. It doesn't even have to be like a soup, but some of these like more stews too. You can very easily freeze and then revisit them in like a week.
Also, when working with clients, sometimes it's really hard helping people change their nutrition if everyone in their house is not on the same page and feel like constantly it's a battle. What are some tips that you're giving people when they feel like they are constantly up against a wall when they're trying to make all these habit changes, but not everyone's on the same page?
It's very challenging. It can be very tempting. Couple thoughts on this. Number one, a really easy place to start is to eliminate a lot of the traditional snack food from the house because it benefits everybody. So you do that, but then you have to have bananas and apples and maybe little self-serves of peanut butter and maybe little yogurts available, but you have to have options. But eliminating those foods that tend to be a temptation for the adult as well. I also have heard this tip works for some people too, is creating almost like a little section that is like sort of hidden if you do allow that stuff for your kids, that is sort of out of reach for you too, so that you kind of, it's like out of sight, out of mind. But it really is important to not have that be the easily accessible thing. You just want to have the healthier options available to you. The other thing that I will say, because eating healthy is definitely a journey and it takes time and every kid is different. I have one child that, like, she was 2 years old and she wanted sushi for her birthday dinner. She's just like been the healthiest eater. And then my son, it's been a little more of a work in progress, but I just always encourage them to try it. You know, I think when you make something for yourself and your kid is kind of turning up their nose to it, can you encourage them to just take 2 or 3 bites? And they don't have to finish it beyond that. But I remember reading, this was a sociology study, but it takes kids something like 8 to 9 times to acquire a taste for a vegetable. And the thought behind this study was actually more economics, how expensive it is for kids to eventually acquire a taste for healthy things. And so many families can't afford to waste that food. But I think if you are eating this, it's an opportunity for you to just always invite your spouse, your partner, your child to have a taste. And I have seen that really, really work. It's not, ruling with this iron fist, like this is what you're eating, but more like, I feel great when I eat this. And I mean, look. And so from that point, like, why don't you try it? Come along.
That's great. And one of my children from school picked up they had to have taught this in her classroom. She calls them hello bites. Like, I just want to.
That's so cute.
And she'll even be like, hey, can I just take a hello bite? Meaning that she's just trying it out.
Just dipping in.
She knows that there's not pressure behind it, that she has to eat all of it, but she's going to introduce it and see what she thinks. Because I definitely saw that in my oldest child. She was extremely picky. I remember when, she's my first child and I panicked at 2 or 3. I was like, oh my gosh, my child's never going to eat a fruit or vegetable. Like, I had these thoughts.
Right.
And continued exposure over and over and over again. Now she's 8 and is a way more adventurous eater. So it takes time. So parents that are listening, don't panic.
Correct.
Just keep trying.
Just be patient.
Be patient.
And my understanding, too, is that taste buds go through different phases, too. I think they turn over in a degree, too. So as you sort of wean off of more processed foods and get to eating more whole food nutrition, it might take some time for even people listening to notice the subtle sweetness of a carrot or an apple. But if you start crowding out some of the more processed stuff with those things, apples, carrots, bananas, they'll start to taste really sweet. They really do. Your taste buds will adjust and it's like, oh, wow, this actually completely checks the box for me for something sweet. I did this last January, February, and into March. I kind of made a pact with myself. I did a casual version of 75 Hard, which I'm doing again this new year. And my one sort of nutrition rule was no desserts. And by desserts, I meant cookies, cakes, chocolate, because I love chocolate. And so I allowed myself a piece of fruit after dinner. And it really worked. I mean, it absolutely checked the box for that craving. I could eat an apple and move right along.
We hear a lot, I just crave sweets, right? And it feels almost like an addiction, right?
It is.
Because it is.
Yeah, exactly.
I like to correct that because so many times people are like, I feel like I am addicted to sweets, but I always like to pause and be like, because you are addicted to sweets.
Yes.
And we don't talk about addiction with food enough because I think understanding that and how powerful that is can help you with changing.
Absolutely.
What have you seen and how have you helped people deal with those extreme cravings for sweets?
So just as I mentioned, you've got to find something to crowd it out with. And sometimes it's not going to be the perfect option, but we're always looking to shift to something better. So let's say that you love Ben & Jerry's ice cream after dinner and you eat a pint of Ben & Jerry's ice cream after every single meal. You come to me, I'm going to say, okay, we're going to eliminate that. But instead of that, maybe we move to something like a Yasso bar. which has Greek yogurt in it. And then from there, maybe we can shift all the way to something like a Greek yogurt. And then maybe we can shift to just herbal tea. But maybe that's going to take a year to do. So being really patient with that process and being very aware of the stepping stones that you're taking to get to ultimately where you want. Because I think if I had someone that was eating a pint of Ben & Jerry's every night and I said, okay, you're going to do herbal tea now instead, that would be really challenging for them. So having a stepping stone and a way to kind of I guess it's really upshift, shift your gear up, and make, an improved choice. We're not going for perfect, but we're going for better. Also, cravings are often a signal that something is going on in the body, that what I call a primary food is not being fed. So I coach my clients that secondary food is really the food that we eat. That's breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks. But primary food is like what feeds our mind, our heart, and our soul. And so if you're dealing with a lot of cravings, have you ever taken pause to ask, what's going on in my life that is driving this? Why am I feeling this feeling that I now think food will numb out? Are you really unhappy in your job? Are you unhappy in a relationship? Are you struggling with something? Sometimes this involves much deeper work, but it can be incredibly eye-opening and worthwhile work because it can honestly open your eyes to why you're using food as a tool to Band-Aid a bigger situation.
I love your psychology background coming out right there.
Yes.
I think that's beautiful because so many times I've seen individuals who put in a ton of work and are trying to do all the things, but still feel like they're hitting these roadblocks. And I do believe that sometimes it's because we're not taking that time to reflect.
Yes.
To figure out what are we trying to use food to cope with.
Yes.
That was powerful.
It was. What do you see? So cravings being one, what are the other things that you see in your clients that make them fail or maybe make them stop with you and just totally give up? What are the biggest roadblocks you see?
This is a commonly used word, but it's self-sabotage. I talk about this resistance that people come up against. I'm sure both of you have felt this, even from a business standpoint. It's like you set this goal and you're ready to go to the next, you're ready to hit the next benchmark, and then all of a sudden stuff just starts piling on and you're like, is the universe telling me I shouldn't be doing this? And I think that's a very natural thing that happens, especially with people in their nutrition journey. They will come out of the gate, we're into January, coming out of the gate strong. And let's say next week, some roadblock comes in and you now suddenly believe that you're not capable of handling it all because you've had this force happen or this force come in. And so we it's self-doubt, and we convince ourselves that we can't handle it all because we have this mindset of perfectionism. I again remind my clients that this is all a process and you're not supposed to do it perfectly, but you've got to stay in the game. You've got to stay and drive. And it's why I love this whole visionary thing that I do with shifting into gears, because I don't want my people going into reverse. I don't want them in park. Sometimes we're in neutral, and that's okay. Things happen in our life that kick us into neutral, and that's absolutely okay. But if we sit in park for too long, we can very easily slide into reverse. And again, it comes back to it takes effort. It really does. But we are worth it. I want everyone listening to know, you are worth the effort. And the more that you believe that you are, you will start saying no to things around you and making the space for yourself.
And it feels really good.
It does.
It does.
Yes.
I anytime setting goals and making these big changes, they're hard in the moment, but on the other side, it feels phenomenal.
It does. There's such a power that comes with that. It's very powerful to prioritize yourself.
And when people are trying to prioritize themselves, accountability is big for that. For someone that maybe can't afford a health coach right now, do you have any advice for them on how do they make sure they're not going into park or reverse, and how can they have that accountability?
I would find an accountability partner. If you can't afford a health coach, do you have someone close in your life that is also looking to make some health changes? Maybe that's a partner, maybe that's a spouse, maybe that's a friend, maybe it's a coworker. find someone in your life that you trust, that you can start this journey with together, and set a couple goals. Maybe they're the same goals, maybe they're different, but you can check in with each other. Maybe have a weekly check-in, and then maybe a monthly meeting appointment, just to sort of download what's going on. But the one thing that I have found through all of this is that we all want connection, and having someone that you can be along with on this journey really makes it a lot less lonely. I think it also helps us recognize that we're all struggling with a lot of the same things too. Like you're not unique from that standpoint. We're all struggling with it. So find a friend that you can enjoy this journey with.
And being honest about like what's going on, what your struggles are. Because again, so much of what we see on social media is, hey, I'm over here struggling, but I'm watching this person that seems to just not have any issues at all.
Absolutely.
Like that has changed our mindset about our ability so much because we are only seeing the highlight reel so many times. We need real life connection with people who can be their real selves with us so we can make progress together.
So maybe on that 1 mile walk outside, you do it with your friend and talk about how you're doing.
Love
We
this.
check all the boxes.
Yes. Perfect.
Before we kind of conclude this show, we would love for you to tell us what Kitchen Chef has to offer people, specifically any New Year's specials that you're going to be running. So everyone who's really excited in this January month, and we want you to keep that excitement, how can Kitchen Shift help them?
Amazing. Yes, I run a program called Power Shift, which is a 10-day reset that is completely focused on whole food nutrition. So in Power Shift, you get a cookbook, you get a guidebook, you get video tutorials on how to cook small recipes like little 5-minute sauces, 5-minute salad dressings, smoothies. And I also offer daily accountability in that program. So if you've never worked with a health coach, I think it's a really easy entry point to try out what a health coaching program would look like. So that's called Power Shift. I run it 5 times a year, but I have one running this January. So I invite anyone listening to give that a try. If that feels a little overwhelming, swing by our shop, which is at 3101 Clays Mill Road. We're Suite 401, and we actually face Wellington Road. But if you want to just start with maybe exchanging an unhealthy lunch with maybe a healthy smoothie, we're a great place to start.
That's great. Well, you made so many great points. I've been trying to keep track of some of these. I'm going to try to review some of these for everyone to remember to keep in your mind after this. And so one thing you mentioned was when just starting out with setting your goals, think about your morning routine because that's going to set up your mindset for the day. So you might want to start with a morning elixir. And remember, I'm going to be trying this one with you because I'm usually straight to coffee girl. So
You can do it!
I'm going to try this warm lemon water and just really make sure you have a plan for your morning routine and your wind down routine because that's going to really impact what you do throughout the day. And then that first meal of the day, whether you're an early morning eater or a later in the day eater, make sure that what you eat in that first meal is nailed down because that matters. And you want all your good nutrition in there. And then let's focus on making sure we're not drinking our calories and watch how that affects your sugar cravings. We're going to try to walk outside for a mile every day. Let's all give that a try. I think that's a good one. And then remember to show yourself respect by actually doing these things that fuel your body. And I loved this analogy of it's okay to be in neutral sometime. Just try not to park too long or get in reverse. Always just try to be moving in that right direction, even if it's just tiny steps. And we're not striving for perfection or just striving for a little bit better each time. But remember that ultimate goal is not for a month. And it's not for 2 months. It's not even for a year. It's these goals we want to be lifelong. So if you can keep at it, you will get to the point where being healthy is fun.
Well, we want to thank Beth for coming to our show, and we want to encourage you to sit down and think about some of those specific SMART goals you can set for yourself this year and really go at them week by week. And if you need any more help with habit change, we also have some resources on the Better Health Library that correlate with many of our episodes that we've had previously, as well as upcoming episodes. And don't forget that if you enjoyed this one, please leave us a review on Apple or Spotify and share this episode with anyone else that you think could benefit. This is very high yield information, and we want so many people to be able to have this when they're making their resolutions this year so they can have success. We also would love to hear any questions and ideas for topics that you would like us to cover in 2025. So please send those to our email at contact@thestartinggatepodcast.com, or you can click the link in the show notes that says send us a text, and that's a great way to connect with us as well.
And we wanted to start out with our challenges.
Yes. Week 1 of challenge for the Starting Gate.
So the first challenge that we're going to start, and we're doing this with you, and Beth already alluded to this, is we're going to do 1 week, no booze.
And hopefully you can make it the whole month. But at least give us a week.
So we hope this was helpful. Happy New Year, and we'll be back next week.
See ya.
Thank you.